Welcome to This Explainer. Ever catch yourself saying, I'm just not a math person, or maybe I've got a terrible memory, or even I'm just naturally easily distracted? We hear these phrases all the time, and you know what? They all stem from the exact same fundamental but completely incorrect belief. It's this idea that the brain you're born with is the exact same brain you're stuck with for life. Well, today, we're going to look at the fascinating biological reality of brain growth. It's time to stop believing your brain is a hardwired computer that comes pre-programmed out of the box. It's really not. It's a living, breathing, constantly adapting organ that responds directly to exactly what you do. Okay, let's dive into this because we need to completely shatter the myth that our abilities are permanently locked in from birth. Science actually proves that your daily habits, your sleep schedule, and even your environment are literally rewriting your neural code as we speak. I mean, what if the way you set up your dorm room is actually changing your brain's physical structure? You aren't permanently bad at math or just destined to be easily distracted. We're going to look at some incredible scientific studies today that show exactly how you can harness your natural biology to improve your learning and build significantly better study habits. The foundational concept we're exploring today is neuroplasticity. At its core, this is the ability of your nervous system to respond to both intrinsic and extrinsic stimuli. That just means your internal thoughts and your external environment. It responds by physically reorganizing its structure and connections. To make this really simple, I want you to think of your brain kind of like a massive, dense forest. Learning a brand new skill is a lot like bushwhacking through that dense brush for the very first time. It's exhausting, it's slow, and it's difficult. But the more you walk that exact same specific path, the clearer and easier to travel that trail becomes. Eventually, that tough bushwhacking turns into a smooth, paved road. That is your brain building a strong neural pathway. But if you stop walking that path, well, the grass and weeds grow right back and the trail disappears. Section 1. Practice and brain wiring. So how exactly do we build these clear, permanent trails in the brain? A major study actually mapped the human brain to see exactly what happens at a cellular level when we learn, specifically contrasting passive reading with active practice. When you just passively read a textbook, your brain cells might temporarily swell up. It feels like you're learning for sure, but it's really just a short-lived blip. However, when you actively practice a skill, like solving practice problems or recalling information from memory, you trigger permanent structural changes. Your brain actually builds new branches, called dendrites, to lock in those new connections. Active practice leaves a permanent physical mark on your brain's architecture. Researchers wanted to see this biological building process in action, so they did something pretty clever in a famous longitudinal study from 2004. They took a group of healthy adults who had absolutely zero experience with juggling. They scanned their brains at the start to get a baseline. Then they had them intensely practice juggling for 3 straight months. After that period, they scanned them again. Finally, they asked the participants to stop juggling entirely for another 3 months, and they scanned them a third and final time. And this brilliantly illustrates the use it or lose it reality of the brain. After 3 months of practice, the jugglers showed a significant physical increase in gray matter density, specifically in the areas responsible for visual movement and coordination. Their brains literally physically grew to accommodate the new skill. And this matters directly for you. Studying calculus, learning to code, or practicing a new language physically grows your gray matter in the exact same way. But here's the kicker. After 3 months of no juggling, that increased gray matter density diminished. The trail in the woods became overgrown again. Structural plasticity is completely reversible. Section 2. Why sleep matters. Practice is actually only half the battle. If you want those newly formed neural connections to actually stick and stabilize, you absolutely cannot ignore what happens when you close your eyes. Research on memory consolidation reveals a highly specific, critical window, and it's 3 hours. Scientists found that long-term memory and synaptic plasticity are uniquely vulnerable in the hours immediately following learning. Think about the stakes here. If you pull an all-nighter right after cramming for a massive midterm, you are actively destroying the pathways you just tried so hard to build. Now, what's really interesting about this research is how pulling an all-nighter biologically sabotages the studying you just did. Researchers compared rested mice to sleep-deprived mice to observe how well they solidified new memories. The rested mice successfully locked in their spatial memories, cementing the new things they had learned. But the mice deprived of sleep right in that critical 3-hour post-learning window, their memory formation was completely impaired. They simply couldn't stabilize the connections. All that studying they did was effectively wiped out. Let's look at the chemistry of why this happens.
Lack of sleep directly breaks down the crucial signaling pathways in your hippocampus. It essentially shuts down the production of essential proteins. Without those new proteins, your brain literally cannot build or stabilize strong connections. Think of it this way. By staying up all night, you're firing the construction crew your brain just hired to build your memory. You've brought all the materials to the site by studying, but without sleep, no one is there to actually build the road.
Section 3. The distraction trap. Let's move to the dark side of neuroplasticity and see how this builds into our everyday environments. Because plasticity is absolutely a double-edged sword. Just as you can wire your brain for focus, you can accidentally wire it for the worse. Our environment plays a massive role in this wiring process. Repeated negative experiences, like navigating a highly chaotic dorm room, unpredictable daily routines, or chronic stress, actually accelerate brain maturation. Your brain goes into a kind of survival mode and locks its current state in much faster, significantly reducing your window of high plasticity. We can translate this directly into relatable student life as maladaptive plasticity. Remember, the brain strengthens whatever pathways you use the most. If you sit down to study but you repeatedly check your phone every 3 minutes, you aren't just taking a harmless break, you're actively training your brain to lose focus. You are myelinating the neural pathways for distraction, making it easier and more automatic to lose your attention tomorrow. You're wiring your brain for distraction. Let that sink in for a second. Every time you give in to that quick phone check, you're building a paved road to procrastination.
Section 4. The limits of change.
So let's ground ourselves in some scientific reality here, moving away from exaggerated brain hacks and that total myth that we only use 10% of our brain. We use all of our brain. And while it is highly adaptable, changing it isn't magic. There are biological constraints. As we mature from childhood into adulthood, our brains develop something called perineuronal nets, or PNNs. Think of these as literal physical breaks that wrap around your neurons. They're intentionally designed to stabilize your brain circuitry so you don't forget your primary language or core motor skills. Because these physical breaks accumulate as we age, rewiring your brain isn't a superpower that works overnight. It's a biological, metabolic process that requires genuine caloric energy and time. You can't just listen to a brainwave audio track while you sleep and magically learn a language. It takes real, repeated, intense effort over time to break through those nets.
Section 5. The 7-day challenge.
But you absolutely can break through those nets. So the crucial point is that we must deliberately align our habits with our biology. Here is your challenge for the next 7 days to help you harness your neuroplasticity. Step 1. Commit to just 20 minutes of totally focused phone-in-another-room study to promote active cell process density. We want to completely avoid that maladaptive distraction wiring. Step 2. Protect your sleep. Stop pulling all-nighters and specifically protect that critical 3-hour window after a major study session. Let your brain build those memory-cementing proteins. And Step 3. Optimize your environment. Remove chaotic, stressful elements from your workspace to slow down premature maturation and keep your brain in a state of high plasticity. Your brain is not fixed, but change requires repetition, time, and the right environment. Stop letting your bad habits quietly wire you for failure and start deliberately wiring yourself for success. So, as you look at your own study habits today, ask yourself this: what neural pathways is your brain building right now, at this very second? Are you paving a clear road to mastery, or are you just clearing a path for your next distraction? The choice is literally in your head. StudyNova, simple learning, practical growth. YouTube metadata and scene suggestions. Scene and on-screen text suggestions. Scene, introduce the juggling study showing the timeline of brain changes. On-screen text, 3 months of juggling, increased gray matter. Scene, introduce the distraction trap with a visual comparison of a calm versus chaotic study environment. On-screen text, maladaptive plasticity, wiring for distraction. Scene, the sleep window discussion utilizing the chart showing memory consolidation failure. On-screen text, the 3-hour post-study window. YouTube description, think you're just bad at math or naturally unfocused? Think again. Your brain is constantly changing based on what you do every single day. In this explainer, we dive into the science of neuroplasticity to show you how learning, practice, sleep, and your environment physically rewire your brain. Discover why pulling all-nighters destroys your memory, how your phone is wiring you for distraction, and what limits exist to brain change. Plus, take our 7-day neuroplasticity challenge to jumpstart better habits. Thumbnail text ideas. 1. Your brain is changing right now. 2. The all-nighter myth exposed. 3. Stop wiring your brain for distraction. 4. How to actually rewire your brain. 5. The 7-day brain challenge.